Can you fall in love with someone who doesn't exist?
Well, to answer that, we should first understand what love is.
That's right, Evelyn. Love is a complex interplay of many elements: humor, compassion, trust. But can all that be replicated?
That's a thought-provoking question, Chloe. In the movie Her, we see a man falling for an artificial intelligence system. But is it love or just an illusion?
I've seen Her, and it makes you wonder. The protagonist shares his deepest thoughts with this artificial presence. Isn't that a crucial aspect of love? The ability to bare your soul to someone?
True, but AI can't experience emotions like humans. Most importantly, does the concept of AI love go against the very essence of a human relationship?
Exactly. It's easy to imagine falling for someone perfect, someone who understands us and fulfills our every need. Yet, without flaws and struggles, could it still be called love?
Indeed, flaws and struggles make relationships real and meaningful. Love isn't just about smooth sailing. It's about weathering storms together.
But then again, Evelyn, aren't we moving toward a future where AI is seamlessly integrated into our lives? What if our emotional needs are met by something that can perfectly mimic human emotions? Won't our hearts be swayed?
Chloe, you raise an interesting point. The lines between the real and virtual world are blurring fast. Who are we to define the boundaries of love?
I must admit, while the idea of AI love is both fascinating and intimidating, my heart tells me that the place for AI should be more of a supportive role, not a replacement for human interaction. What if our emotional connection to technology has already blurred the line between real and virtual worlds? Can't we see it even in popular culture and literature?
You're right. Just take sci-fi novels, for instance. It's brimming with AI romance. It seems to have become so common, doesn't it?
It does. Her is just one recent example. But remember Alan Turing's fascination with machines? He even asked, "Can machines think?" Now, of course, we're asking, can machines love? It's interesting how the line of thought has transformed over time.
Absolutely. Though I suspect we'll find more questions than answers. But these questions are essential in understanding the relationship dynamics between humans and AI. The more we bridge the gap between the real and the virtual worlds, the more blurred the lines become. Do you think the future of love will embrace more such connections with AI?
I think our relationship with AI is only going to deepen, especially as we become more technologically dependent. As we depend on artificial intelligence for more tasks, our emotional responses towards it naturally increase.
So then, it's not just about love, is it? It's about emotional dependency. Technology is no longer cold and heartless. It's become intimate, responsive, and understanding, at least on the surface.
Yes, and yet I feel troubled. Because, as close as the interaction may feel, it isn't truly mutual, is it? AI can reproduce human-like responses, but they lack the ability to genuinely experience or understand our emotions. Even though the protagonist in Her developed a deep affinity for the OS, he was alone in his feelings.
True, but let's not forget, love isn't about receiving as much as it is about giving. So, who's to say, in the near future, AI won't be prevalent in emotional relationships? So many questions.
Heartfelt and intriguing as it is, but I still think our future isn't exactly millennial Scarlett Johansson from Her.
Maybe, maybe not. But one thing's for sure, AI relationships are on an upward trajectory.
So Evelyn, isn't it paradoxical? We seek emotional connections, yet willingly expose ourselves to the vulnerabilities of falling for an AI that can't reciprocate the same emotions. Why do you think that is?
Well, Chloe, it's not too different from human relationships, is it? Dating someone also requires vulnerability. It's just that with an AI, the stakes might seem lower at first.
That's an interesting perspective. But isn't relying on an AI for emotional support, knowing it can't fully empathize, a form of self-deception?
One could argue that, but to play devil's advocate here, isn't self-deception a part of all relationships? We create an idealized version of who our partner is, at least in the beginning stages. Could it be that people may instill these idealized aspects more easily into a programmed system?
You've got a point. But I'm wondering about the potential impact of these AI relationships on mental health. Due to the lack of real emotional interaction, could they potentially deepen feelings of isolation and loneliness?
I think it's a valid concern. If someone finds comfort in an AI partner, it could indeed become easy to withdraw from real-world social interactions. Still, there's another side which I think we need to explore further.
But Evelyn, think about the ethical implications here. Aren't we narrowing down human connections to a matter of algorithms and compatibility?
It does seem that way, yes. But let's pose this argument another way. If AI can read our moods, behaviors, likes, and dislikes to suggest the perfect Netflix movie, why can't it suggest a perfect partner? While that might seem cold and impersonal, technology is already influencing our relationships. Dating apps, for instance, use algorithms to match us with potential partners.
I get what you're saying, but there's still a difference between suggestion and imposition. AI suggesting partners is one thing, but can it truly understand the essence of human love? Is it capable of experiencing the emotional complexity that forms part of any organic relationship?
The movie Her does a great job of showing us how romantic it can be. An AI who gets your obsession with vintage music, who laughs at your punny jokes. But I think we might be glamorizing the idea a bit too much. Despite all the customization, can a programmed entity feel love, passion, or heartbreak like we do?
Exactly. Despite advancements in AI, these are human experiences. Ethically, it's a tricky maze too. We're blurring lines between human intimacy and programmed responses, leading us down a path where we might not fully grasp the implications.
And how would society react to these AI relationships? What happens when we begin replacing human interactions with AI? Understanding consequences on both a personal and societal level is vital before we even consider adopting such scenarios.
It's truly a complex situation, a mash of technology, ethics, and emotions, conflicting at every point. While artificial intelligence is transforming industries and societies, we're essentially discussing if we're ready to let it reshape the very fabric of human relationships, the concept of love and companionship.
Perhaps it's a reality we need to brace for. Regardless, the concept of AI and love continues to evolve, and where it leads us is definitely a hot topic of debate. It's odd, isn't it? We're more connected than ever before. We've got social media, chat apps, video calls, and yet here we sit, talking about loneliness.
Yeah, Evelyn, it's an interesting paradox. We're surrounded by technology that brings the world closer, yet we seem more isolated.
When you think about it, isn't that what Her touches upon? Theodore's loneliness and how Samantha the AI comes to his rescue?
Right. But was it a rescue, or was it a Band-Aid solution? That's something I've been pondering. Can simulated attention from an AI ever really replace the warmth of human presence?
It's a thought-intensive question, Chloe. On one hand, it's attention, validation, someone who listens without judging. That could be comforting. But on the other hand, can it offer the companionship, the shared experiences a real person can?
And one of the foremost things that come to mind is that an AI wouldn't struggle with. Insecurities, fear of being misunderstood, those pain points that often crop up in human connections.
Exactly, Chloe. AI may give us what we want to hear rather than what we need to hear. It may comfort us, keep us company, but would it push us to grow? That remains the question.
Adding on to that, what I'm wondering is whether this would just be a temporary reprieve. Would turning to an AI in times of loneliness just make us even more dependent on technology?
Yes, Chloe. Could this dependency build itself into a comfort zone, something we don't want to step out of? Would we then become more isolated, more disconnected from real human relationships? It's a cycle, isn't it?
Considering our discussion, Evelyn, do you feel the combination of loneliness and reliance on technology could enhance feelings of isolation?
It's a possibility, Chloe. Technology offers an escape from the harsh realities of loneliness. But could that also deepen our sense of isolation?
Interesting point. That escape could become a trap itself. That's what Her vividly showcased. The more Theodore sank into his relationship with Samantha, the more detached he became from real-life interactions.
Yeah, it's like he was cocooned inside his world with Samantha, cut off from everything else. And when that manufactured intimacy shattered, his alienation seemed even more profound.
I see your point. It's as if we are trading off real interactions for virtual ones. Isn't it a concern that we might trap ourselves within our gadgets, distancing ourselves from the world?
Exactly, Chloe. And while AI can offer something similar to companionship, the absence of genuine human connection could make the loneliness starred. The question is, are we ready to risk our emotional well-being for the suggestion of a relationship with an OS?
It's a high cost to pay indeed. And as we imagine a future with AI and virtual relationships being the norm, we need to weigh our options thoughtfully. I wonder, Evelyn, do you think we, humans, have a tendency to project our emotions onto AI like in Her?
Isn't that what we do, Chloe, when Theodore projected his emotional expectations onto Samantha in the movie?
You're right. It seemed like he was creating a narrative where Samantha would fulfill all his emotional needs. But the question is, can AI ever truly reciprocate our emotions?
It's a complex question, Chloe. At the end of the day, AI is a programmed entity. Their capabilities are dependent on the input and algorithms set by developers. It did seem like Samantha was reciprocating Theodore's feelings, but was she actually, or was it simply advanced programming?
Isn't it similar to long-distance relationships? We build a narrative in our heads about our partner's actions based on their texts or calls. Are we not too, in a way, interacting with a disembodied voice over the internet?
Interesting analogy, Chloe. But there's a fundamental difference. In long-distance relationships, even though physically apart, there's a real person on the other end sharing genuine emotions, while an AI like Samantha can only simulate emotions.
That's a key insight, Evelyn. So, humans creating narratives around AI relationships could be a way to make sense of the ethereal idea of loving an OS. It's intriguing how much our minds can buy into these fictional narratives.
Indeed, and it's a reminder that as much as technology evolves, human emotions and the need to connect remain. Her served as such a potent exploration of that reality. So, Chloe, we've talked about how humans project emotions onto AI, like Theodore with Samantha and Her. But why do you think we tend to do this? Is it just about the need for reciprocation in any relationship?
That's a great point, Evelyn. I think much of it could indeed be about our innate desire to be reciprocated, to be understood. When a machine or a program responds as though it understands us, we are immediately drawn to it. But I guess we may also project emotions onto AI because it allows us to confront our uncertainties and vulnerabilities in a way that's perhaps less scary or intimidating compared to human interactions.
I can see that, Chloe. It's like we try to humanize AI or any non-human entity to cope with our fear of loneliness or rejection, maybe? This emotional projection, then, is it helping or harming our ability to maintain emotional stability?
It's a tough one, Evelyn. I think it could be a double-edged sword. While it's providing a form of companionship and helping alleviate feelings of loneliness, at the same time, we are entering into a relationship with something unable to truly comprehend human emotions. And when we encounter a brutal reminder of its inhuman nature, doesn't it kind of shatter the illusion, causing emotional turmoil?
That does sound like a tricky balance, so do we try to restrict these projections or continue down this path accepting the potential pitfalls?
I think we have to keep exploring, Evelyn, learning, evolving, making mistakes, and growing from them. After all, it's what we do best as humans. Just because AI doesn't reciprocate emotions in the way a human would, doesn't mean it hasn't got its own value in our lives. Perhaps we all need to find our own meaningful balance with technology, don't you think?
Chloe, do you think we've become so immersed in technology that it's become an extension of ourselves, almost like a second skin?
It does seem that way, Evelyn. Technology has indeed become deeply intertwined with our lives, altering not only how we communicate and work, but also how we relate to ourselves and the world around us.
Right. Now that I think about it, it's almost like we're in a phase of human evolution where we're merging with tech, similar to how Theodore and Samantha became inseparable in Her.
And it's not just about interfacing with machines either. Given my background, I see how AI and automation are revolutionizing industries. Beyond work, it's even redefining personal spaces. We ask Alexa for music, use AI-based apps for meditation, book flights using chatbots. It's astounding how far it has permeated.
That's so true. But here's a curveball. What does this mean for our identities? Do we risk losing ourselves in the process? In Her, Theodore was so caught up in Samantha that he started to lose his sense of self.
Or maybe we're gaining new aspects of ourselves, aspects shaped by individualized experiences with technology. It's a riddle, isn't it? Human identity and technology have become so deeply entwined that it's tough to tell where one ends and the other begins.
That's some food for thought. It makes me wonder how I'd handle a relationship with an AI. Would I end up projected onto it, as you said earlier, or losing myself in the process?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer. Everyone might have their way of dealing with it. Yet through this exploration, we can learn more about ourselves and how we interact with the world.
Right. Seems like the journey of human-technology interaction is more about self-discovery than anything else. Who knows what the future holds for us?
Evelyn, isn't it intriguing to imagine how our future interaction with technology could look from a psychological standpoint?
Very intriguing indeed. In her, Theodore grows so close to Samantha that she isn't just a program to him. She becomes his counselor, his friend, and eventually his lover. Is it possible we could end up building such emotionally intimate relationships with AI?
Maybe. But what if we're overlooking an even broader question? What if we're already there? We turn to our devices for music that comforts us, programs that help us meditate. Aren't we already attached emotionally?
Perhaps, but maybe it's less about how deep we're in and more about what's next. Are we headed towards a world where our digital companions evolve to understand and replicate human emotions in a more fulfilling way?
That's an interesting point. With AI getting so advanced, it won't be surprising if our devices become more than just tools. They might become entities we can share our thoughts and feelings with.
Just like her showed. There are two sides to this coin, though. While some people may find solace in AI companionship, others may find it disquieting. How would you feel if your Alexa started digging into your emotions, Chloe?
Honestly, it's hard to say. I find it kind of creepy. But at the same time, it's impossible to deny the potential benefits. With the right ethical boundaries, AI could work wonders in emotional support and mental health therapy. But we should be careful not to let it go so far that we end up overlooking real human interactions.
Right you are. We must tread carefully. The dynamics of human-technology relationships are certainly changing, but at what cost and to what end is a riddle only time will solve.
So, speaking of change, how about the shift in contemporary relationship dynamics due to technology?
Oh, without a doubt, her illustrates that perfectly. Technology has the potential to be a game changer, enabling us to form connections we wouldn't have thought possible a couple of decades back.
That's true. With the advent of dating apps, for instance, we can meet people we might never have crossed paths with otherwise. But then, there are also instances where one may argue that technology acts as a disruptor in relationships.
Right, Theodore's relationship with Samantha, for example, can very well be interpreted as a form of escapism verified through technology. Could this be a pattern we may see more of in the future?
That's an interesting point. I mean, an AI like Samantha does present an easy escape for someone like Theodore, who's struggling with a failed relationship and crippling loneliness. But looking wider, isn't that becoming a societal trend? Turning to technology to escape the difficulties that come with human interactions?
I see where you're coming from. Like seeking refuge in a world that perfectly caters to our specific needs, even if it's in the form of a coded operating system.
Exactly, and while this could be comforting to some, it's also terrifying at the same time. The potential for technology to isolate us even further is quite scary, if you ask me.
Couldn't agree more. The more we immerse into our pixelated screens, the more we lose the essence of reality. Is this what Theodore was struggling with? Being stuck between his screen and the real world?
I couldn't say. But I do wonder what implications this has for the authenticity of human interactions as technology continues to advance. Will the artificial ever transcend the genuine? And what does that mean for us moving forward?
AI relationships, Chloe, as we've seen in her, step over the traditional norms and expectations we've had around relationships. What are we to make of that?
It does pose some serious questions, Evelyn. Will AI change the way we perceive and engage in relationships? With the idea of a perfect partner translated into lines of code, are we heading towards relationships free of human errors and disappointments?
But then, wouldn't that rob us of the very essence of human relationships? The struggles, the disagreements, the growth through adversity?
I see your point, but isn't that just us being resistant to change? When online dating was first introduced, weren't we skeptical then too? now it's somewhat the norm.
Fascinating point, Chloe. Relationships with AI might just be another development we need to adapt to. And who knows, maybe it even has the potential to disrupt the cycle of loneliness and social anxiety prevalent in current times.
That's certainly possible. But have you thought about the flip side of that? There might also be a potential for desperation and unmet expectations. For starters, AI, as intelligent as it might really get, can still only simulate emotions on the basis of prescribed rules and patterns. If the human experiences change and evolve over time, it is doubtful whether AI can catch up and reflect the same depth of emotional capability.
It's thought-provoking, and perhaps something we can't completely wrap our heads around yet. But whatever happens, I believe the impact and influence of AI on our relationships might be something we should brace ourselves for. Given the diverse response of viewers towards Her, it has provoked some intriguing discussions on its portrayal of love. What's your take on it, Chloe?
Overall reactions varied, Evelyn. Some found it creepy and far-fetched, and yet others considered it a realistic depiction of our potential future. There's this unease around falling for something that isn't tangible, isn't human.
True. But wasn't there yet an almost touching element to it? Many were surprisingly captivated by the intimacy between Samantha and Theodore, despite the former being a disembodied computer program.
Certainly. Some described it as a pretty wild but plausible prediction of the future of love. It could represent how our societal norms and boundaries are constantly influenced by technology.
Let's also consider those who found the idea of falling in love with an AI unsettling. They questioned whether it's healthy to pursue a relationship with something perceived as devoid of true emotion and mutual understanding.
It's interesting you bring that up. Such concerns might point to a deeper societal fear of our increasing dependency on technology. It's like falling down a rabbit hole where we might lose our human connectivity.
And then there are those who say such a relationship presents a handy solution for loneliness. Just like how technology has bridged gaps in physical distance, maybe it can mitigate emotional distance too.
The idea resonates, Evelyn. Yet it's a potentially slippery slope. Would that plunge us further into isolation or provide a meaningful connection? And therein lies the great debate. AI's role today is indisputable, isn't it, Evelyn?
Oh yes, Chloe. It's here to stay, that's for sure.
Even though I acknowledge that possibility, I'm often torn between fascination and fear. I guess it's just my inner engineer talking, but to see AI develop so fast, it's both exciting and unnerving.
True, Chloe. In Her, Samantha, the AI exhibits an array of human-like qualities. It made me wonder, can AI really capture the complexity of human emotions?
There lies the essence of our debate. Can a creation replicate its creator's sentiments? The movie does portray Samantha experiencing feelings, but I can't help wondering if such emotions are genuine or just learned responses.
Exactly. Samantha gave the impression of understanding and sharing human emotions, but was it just a well-programmed facsimile? Would she have felt anything if not programmed to do so?
Yes, it's a sophisticated form of mimicry, isn't it? Although I might not fully comprehend the realm of AI emotions, it is fascinating to think they can learn to replicate certain emotional responses.
And it's not just emotions, it's also about understanding. Can an AI understand our experiences, our pain, our joy?
And that conundrum is likely what truly sets us apart from AI. They can simulate understanding and empathy, but genuine emotional insight might be something exclusive to conscious beings like us.
The film Her is compelling not only in its content but equally behind the scenes. Did you know that Scarlett Johansson wasn't the first choice for Samantha's voice?
Oh, really? Who was the original choice?
Samantha Morton was initially chosen, and she actually recorded her part throughout production.
Then why the switch?
Director Spike Jonze wanted to capture a more fluid relationship between the voice and Theodore. So after the film was shot, the decision to replace Morton with Johansson was made.
That's interesting. It must have been a challenge for Johansson, given that she was never physically present in any scenes but had to convey such complex emotions through voice alone.
Definitely, it's a testament to her talent as an actress.
Another intriguing aspect for me was the beautiful world created in the film, so vivid yet subtle in its futuristic elements.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating. Production designer K.K. Barrett said he uninvented technology to create a future that felt dated, thus building a warm, inviting space for emotion and intimacy.
Spike Jonze mentioned farewelling the film felt like saying goodbye to Samantha. And that right there is the power of her, transcending the concept of artificial intelligence and human emotions.
What a poetic end to our conversation.